Hey everyone, welcome back to another video. Today I'm going to be doing my VCT EMEA off-season grades. This is going to be going through every team in EMEA, giving them a grade like F through A plus on what I thought of their off-season. This isn't going to be necessarily like rankings of the rosters or anything. It's just going to be rankings of how their off-season went and how much better as a team did they get comparatively to the rest of the field. I did this video for Americas, so if you guys enjoyed, go check that out. Also, leave a like, subscribe, all that kind of stuff. I'm going to be doing one more of these for Pacific once I'm done watching all the players from that region. And then after that, I'm going to be getting into actual power rankings for all three regions, going through all 33 teams and giving my thoughts on every single one. I might do a little bit of stuff on China, probably just EDG and putting them in rankings. Because I don't really know a ton about the rest of the Chinese teams, and I'm going to wait until this year to actually figure that out and be able to watch VCT China. So stay tuned for all that content coming just before the season starts here. And yeah, I don't really have too much else to say, I don't think. So let's get right into the video. So we're going to start here with Fnatic, which, I mean, this one's going to be the quickest one. I'm going to give them a B minus just because they made a coaching downgrade and they really couldn't control it, but it's still a downgrade. So there's really not a ton to say here. They kept the same roster. Good job. It's not like they were ever gonna change this roster or even considered it at all. All right, and then Navi, I'm gonna give them a B plus because honestly, I can't really give them an A here, but this might have been the most obvious move of all time. Um, just bringing back artists to get that FPX score back. Now, that being said, CNED to Artis is a downgrade. I do think Artis is a worse duelist player than CNED, but he does add more chemistry, and I do think Artis should be better this year than he was last year, even though I do still think CNED will be better for Foot than even CNED was for Navi. So I think Artis is just a better fit here. And that's really what it comes down to. I, again, don't have a ton to say because it's only one change. Um, but yeah, I mean, good move, but still a downgrade in my eyes. I think there was more potential with CNED, while Artis, I think that adds a better floor to this team. And like the times when they were playing, like, I don't know, like in LCQ at Tokyo, like I feel like Artis would have given them a better floor and they would have performed a little bit better at those events. While I think at lock-in, I think Artis would have been a little bit worse for them rather than where they were with CNED. Um, yeah, I mean, again, as I said, gives a better floor, but the ceiling to maybe win tournaments, I'm not fully there right now with this team. All right, now we have Liquid, which I have some strong opinions on, but overall, I do think this roster is fairly okay, which is why I gave them a B minus here. Personally, I mean, they probably got rid of Safe just because he didn't agree with like some stuff that maybe they wanted. Like he had clashes in personality with Yampy and or Nats. But personally, I would have cut everybody and just kept Safe had it meant that they would keep Safe. I just think he's too good to let go right now. But I kind of understand them wanting to keep Nats and Yampy because Yampy's been on Liquid for a long time and Nats has a massive brand. So I understand it, but I still don't love it. Enzo and Mystic were two of the most valuable free agents in EMEA last year or this offseason. Um, being Enzo just being probably the best IGL in tier 2, and then Mystic coming in and probably being the best smokes player in EMEA. Um, like realistically, as individuals, the only one even competing with him is Boaster, and I think Mystic still clears, pretty clearly, honestly. Um, and then Kiko coming in here, I think it was a good pickup as well. Obviously, we've seen him kind of struggle in the race a little bit in these offseason tournaments, but I think he'll get there. And he played with Enzo and Mystic last year and was probably the best duelist in tier two. Um, but it's really splitting hairs. Like there's a lot of very similar level duelist players in the EMEA. Um, so he would be like just barely above everybody else in my eyes. So overall, I think you could argue this team got worse than what their peak was in the EMEA playoffs. And I don't know if this team is going to contend for trophies like they did last year. But they're definitely going to get a better baseline from this team than what Redgar gave them as an IGL. Okay, and now I realize that I'm going through all the like roster that I don't have a ton to talk about first, but we're going to talk about Giants now, who I'm going to give a B minus here. Very similar to Fnatic, except they lost their IGL and are replacing him with another IGL. Keep the roles the same, keep the rest of the roster the same. Didn't really have a ton of choice in getting rid of Rhyme because he wanted to go work on his studies, like go back to school and stuff. So I don't have an issue from Giants' point of view from that, but it is still a downgrade. So I can't give them anything really higher than a B minus. But I think Redgar might have been the best possible replacement, unless you're gonna go find some low level like tier two IGL and bring him up. But I think Redgar for a team that is ready to win right now, I think Redgar is probably the best option for that. All right, and now we're going to give the highest grade I've given to any team throughout the series, Foot, who I'm going to give an A plus to. They've added a top 7 duelist in the world, in my opinion, into an already good roster. I mean, that's just a great move in itself. And then you bring in Yedege for Maj, who looks to be one of the biggest prospects out of Turkey, one of the biggest prospects in Valorant that we've seen in a while. He looks, I think I rated him as like a top 4 Sentinel in EMEA. Just because like how he played at Red Bull, he was incredible at that event. And I don't see it slowing down. His mechanics are so good. Just as a pure, like, he has more Sentinel, like, intuition, I guess. I don't know how to, instincts. That's the word that I was looking for. Um, then Alfier, who I did rate as number 1, even than Sagetsu, in my opinion. I do think Nats is better in that sense. But I do think, like, Yedege is a very similar player to Nats. Um, except maybe not, like, as much of a hard lurker. Um, but yeah, I just think he's incredible. Ada Captain is so good. Fallen is a pretty good IGL. Cracks, as long as he can get his agent pool together, I think is going to be an incredible player for this team. There's definitely a chance that this team is like towards the top of EMEA, if not at the top, by the end of the year. And yeah, I mean, just an incredible improvement from where they were last year. All right, and now we have Vitality, who I'm going to give an A minus. Safe to me was the best available player in all of EMEA. Wasn't really that close. Like I think the rest of them were like tier 2 players coming up, but Safe is genuinely a world class duelist player. Now they're going to be putting him on flex here, which I don't love, but I still think he's going to be able to play some of the Rays and maybe some double duelist comps here and there. But also Runner is a very good duelist. I didn't think his entering was anything incredible, but especially his op play and everything on the defensive side was so good. He felt to me a lot like Cryo in a way, where he wasn't like Cryo at times is an issue on the attack side. I didn't feel that as much for Runner, but maybe that was in tier just because he was playing in tier 2. But on the defensive side, he was incredible. Um, both of them. So I think that's probably the best comparison you can give. Kicks here, I think was pretty good when I watched him. He wasn't amazing, wasn't bad. Sender, IGLing for the first time is genuinely just the main thing that scares me here. Um, don't really know what you're going to get from that. But I think if they have enough confidence to keep him and then put him on IGL, then I think he should be serviceable. And then Destrian was never really that impressive to me, but I think if the rest of the roster is good enough, then that really won't be an issue. And I also thought Smokes was the better role out of when he played that in the Initiator. So I'm glad that's the role he is on here. And yeah, overall, I think this roster has a lot of upside for this year. But I don't know how well they're going to start the year. Is my main issue. And then now we get into some of these lower grades here. These bottom teams. So I'm going to give BBL here a D. And just because I don't see an upgrade really, or at least a big upgrade in any role at all. I thought their IGLing was okay last year, and Pora's wasn't particularly impressive in tier 2. Aslan staying here, Kushner staying here, Brave is staying. Obviously, Aslan is switching roles, I believe. And then Elite, I was fairly impressed with him. I thought he can be pretty good here. But I still don't think that's going to be enough to make them a super competitive roster. And I think this team could be fairly consistent on a week-to-week basis. Just, I don't know if they're really even going to make playoffs at any point or be super competitive in EMEA, even though this region is generally considered weaker. And then we're going to keep rolling here and give Heretics an F here. There were so many moves I didn't like here. Starting with Boo as their IGL. He, in the past, has not looked good and still does not look good in what I've watched. He's not the worst individual as an IGL, and I think you can do worse for any IGL at all. But yeah, he's still not good enough to really win anything with. Mini Boo, brought in because they have Boo, has looked awful in the games I've watched. Just not a good enough entry player. Straight up, it's not even that he doesn't find kills; it's that he doesn't like clear angles when he's entering, which is the main point of actually dashing in. Which, yeah, I mean, he's just bad. I don't know. Reigns to me was really passive, but I didn't think he was awful. I think I mean, I rated him very low for initiator players, but that's also because I didn't watch a ton of him, and what I watched wasn't the best. But it still was fairly good. He was clutch. That's good mechanics. I think he can get better here. And then other moves combining like Woot being 17, I believe, not being able to play the beginning portion of the season. Getting rid of Avova here didn't make sense to me. And overall, I just thought there was a lot better options across the board at every role. Maybe outside of Initiator and Flex. And yeah, this team is not going to be good. And I think F is a fairly fair grade for this offseason. And now we have my second F in Koi. And we're going to start with the main reason. Starzo IGLing. Has not looked good in the past, continues to not look good this offseason. I think he's the worst IGL in the EMEA already, and will be the worst IGL in EMEA. And yeah, I have no confidence that he's going to add anything to this team in terms of calling. Shados still doesn't know how to play Sentinel, still gets caught out and lurks all the time. I think, like, I watched them play on Ascent, and he was playing Killjoy, and literally every time he tried to lurk, he got caught, and was the first pick. So that's just not going to be good enough for this team. Camo and Shadow look okay. Camo, I mean, is just a fine duelist player. Shadow's a fine flex or initiator player. I actually don't know how to define that. I think I had Drex as the flex and Shados as the initiator. In my player rankings, but still. Trex is actually pretty good. To me, he didn't play great at the end of last year, which could have something to do with pressure and that kind of stuff. so that could be an issue. But he's really the only redeeming quality about this roster. Um, and yeah, I think they'll continue again, similar to what Heretics. They'll just continue to suck this year, Koi will, and that's kind of unfortunate. Okay, and now we have a little bit more of a positive outlook in Karmi Core, who I'm gonna give a C plus here. Now, I think this is mainly because of the strategy they've used to build the roster in where some teams like maybe Loud in the past, I think they're the prime example. They pick up a bunch of duelist players, put them on different roles, and hope that they can learn the roles and become really good at them. And I think that's a good strategy most of the time. Um, Another team that did that was T1, but you need somebody, whether it be a coach, an IGL, or both. You need somebody to develop these players that is great at doing that. And I don't fully trust Magnum as an IGL for that. Like he hasn't IGL'd before. He's part of that Fnatic core that kind of choked on LAN every time they made it. Um, and yeah, I don't trust him. Obviously, they have Aang here from Gambit, who definitely could develop these players. I don't. I mean, I guess he did develop that Gambit roster because they weren't like great players out the gate. Um, but yeah, these players are all great players. They just need to figure out their roles, and especially Neri and Tamazi, who I thought Neri was good. I still think he was overhyped in NA. Really not like I mean he had like top 3 stats, but actually watching him, he didn't feel super mechanically talented or like a great entry player. Like he wasn't bad by any means, but I don't think he was all he was hyped up to be. Tamazi was what he was hyped up to be. I thought he was very good, just not a good enough opper, and that's why Martine is going to be the duelist player here. Shin staying in spokes, fairly good. I still think Magnum's a good individual on Sentinel, but IGLing could kind of mess with that. I don't know. I don't think this team is going to be good this year, but in the long run, I think they could definitely be a good team. I think they'll probably find some players that they like out of this roster and then continue to build off of that, make some changes this offseason or next offseason, and just start to become a better team. I think definitely they did the best job of rebuilding out of all these bottom teams, and overall do have a decent future outlook. That being said, I don't know if I believe that they'll like get out of this hole. But that's it for the EMEA teams, I think, right? Yeah, that's all 10. Um, I didn't give Gentlemates a grade. I just realized, just because they didn't make any changes, they probably would have been a B. They didn't make any changes to the coaching staff, to the players, as far as I'm aware. So I accidentally left them out, but I realize now that I mean, they probably just got a B because they didn't do anything. So yeah, that's it for the grades. Let me know what you guys thought in the comments below, and I'll see you guys in the next one for either some random video or Pacific off-season grades.